Driving Business.
And many thanks for joining us. I'm Jared Paul Sunko with Winnie Wins and Akochi on Sign Language. This is Business Today. But first, let's have a look at our top stories.
In Business Today, President Museveni parades investment opportunities at the first Lohana Business Forum. Members of Parliament worry over heavy deployment at the Uganda-Kenyan border hindering trade. SMEs tap into e-commerce in order to boost its trade performance.
Right on to it. The Kenyan riots continue to disrupt Uganda as members of parliament have now expressed worry over the heavy deployment at the Uganda-Kenyan borders, which they say is going to stall businesses on the Ugandan side. They say it's now 3 days since the Monday riots without trucks coming into Uganda from the Kenyan side. We have more in this report.
Honorable Siranyi brought the topic before Parliament, stating that the Ugandan government has not been forthcoming with information regarding it, despite the concern that goods prices may increase as a result of the ongoing crisis in Kenya.
We have a glaring problem at hand, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, from yesterday, all Ugandans who are traveling and moving to Kenya with goods are stuck. Actually, Right Honorable Speaker, I don't know how the Honorable Macho missed this, but from Bugiri, almost to Busia, Ugandans are not allowed to go into Kenya. Right Honorable Speaker, it is a crisis that is a very serious crisis that Ugandans are not allowed to enter with their goods because of the strike that is taking place in Kenya.
The issue was further emphasized by Honorable Nyakato Asinansi, who informed Parliament that since the Monday riots happened, no truck has come to Uganda through the Kenyan border, and that it's only a matter of time before prices of goods go high if the Ugandan government does not intervene.
Trucks from the other side, the fuel trucks from the other side of Kenya cannot move. It is now 3 days down the road. They have been packed, so they cannot cross over, meaning that the challenge that we had last year of fuel crisis may arise again, Madam.
Minister of Finance, Honorable Matia Kasaija, has informed Parliament that he needs to get more information about the events before any conclusions, but the members of Parliament insisted on an immediate answer.
Procedure right for you to guide us and direct government to come and communicate to us the proposals they have, because this is something that is already taking place. The strikes are going on, fuel is not entering, our traders can't do business, and things are getting stuck. Before we reach the final worst situation,
His submission on the crisis in Kenya is not satisfactory. Do you want to inform the country, Honourable Speaker, inform the country, our capacity, import capacity, how many months can we sustain the economy in the face of an import crisis? We know you have depleted our reserves, and now we have a crisis, one of our major trading partners.
A direct question was raised. We are seeing blockade on the border. And this elicited a direct response. But for the minister to say we shall act as it comes and within our means, this is the first time I'm getting a very vague response from the front bench.
Minister Bahati proposed that Parliament give government until tomorrow to issue a statement on the Kenyan problem.
Request that we make a statement to this House tomorrow about what is happening on our borders.
The Kenyan opposition leader Raila Odinga declared that Kenyans will be taking to the streets every Monday of the week to express their dissatisfaction over the high cost of living, as well as demand for justice over what he calls a stolen victory. Samlanifa, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now committees of Parliament continue to present supplementary budgets before the Budget Committee for approval. And today, the Committee of Education and that of Physical Infrastructure presented their budgets. Samla Hanifa gives us more details to what transpired as public servants in need of uniform salaries.
The issue of teachers' salaries was emphasized by Honorable John Katwesijwe, Chair of the Education Committee, when proposing the 52 billion shillings supplementary budget for the Ministry of Education. He explained to the Budget Committee that although it was suggested that all public employees' salaries be uniform, the government moved ahead and raised the pay of select science teachers, which was unfair.
Side of the wages, additional money for paying scientists, in our recommendation of the Budget Committee, Education Committee, for the financial year 2022-2023, we recommended that the government pays all teachers across the board. Salaries should be enhanced across the board.
The legislators on the Budget Committee have also acknowledged the discrepancies in the salaries of public servants, which is now reflected on the supplementary budgets.
It appears the executive has gone ahead to raise some money. But you hear people complaining because there is no sufficient money to pay scientists as promised. So which means this is not sustainable. Because if you cannot pay all the scientists as you promised, how are you going to deal with other teachers? So me, as a professor who does research, this policy of paying some few higher salaries is not sustainable according to our economy.
I want to agree with Dr. Fair. The issue of scientists, I think, has been poorly misconstrued. Paying people who teach science more money does not make them better scientists.
On the other hand, the Committee of Infrastructure has also presented the supplementary budget of over 6 billion shillings for Ministry of Works and Transport. The committee chairperson of Physical Infrastructure has told the committee of the differences in the money that was presented for the construction of the Namugongo Shrine. According to Honorable Kasolo, Ministry of Finance presented a different amount from what Ministry of Works presented, as well as the contractor Rocco, which is still confusing to the committee, yet construction at the shrine needs to be done before June this year.
Rocco, to complete works, needed 6 billion plus. That was the estimate. The Ministry of Finance has offered 4 point plus. But as a committee, since we know what have you, the only issue which came to which was unfortunate was the engineering estimate. But giving them the money and what have you, and how the money is going to be handled and what have you, the committee was very contented. We were all about the discrepancies in the money.
The committee members, however, urged government to assume control of this responsibility to complete the construction work on schedule because it had already committed to finishing the project.
And this Namugongo facility is one such a facility that can bring the money to the economy very quickly. So when there is a window like this one, we need to support it. because government has been reluctant. We say it in theory and in practice it is slow.
Committees from different sectors continue to present their supplementary budgets as they prepare for the budget of the financial year 2023-2024. Samlanifa, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now let's move on to the Azimio protest financial loss. What does this mean to Uganda's economy? Now, the Azimio protest resulted in 2 financial loss for Kenya because it involved infrastructure loss. The government authorities to take measures to manage protests in a way that will minimize such impacts while respecting the right to peaceful assembly and the freedom of expression. We have more details.
According to Kenya Deputy President, the government has lost about 40 million shillings due to protests due to the property damage, loss of business revenue and increased security costs. Many people avoided Nairobi's central business district due to fear of their property being damaged, hence slow response towards business contribution and daily progress.
This morning, because of lack of business in the CBD, the country has lost almost 2 billion shillings in terms of business. And this is money that should have been circulating in the economy. The events that are being organized by the opposition is not good for business, it's not good for the economy. And we want to ask the organizers to consider this afternoon to call off the mayhem and the chaos so that those who did not open their businesses and shops can go back to work this afternoon.
The KRA revenue collection from the KRA is 70 to 80 millilitres, with approximately 40 million lost during the protests. Then KRA is expected to lose more. For instance, if the protests continue as planned, the predicted 40 million loss every Monday would result in a revenue loss of 160 million to an already fragile economy. While the incoming government administration prioritizes domestic revenue mobilization to close the budget deficit, KRA is likely to face pressure and increase its collection. An estimated 160 million income loss, including infrastructure losses and business closures, will make it difficult for the agency to collect at least 173 billion each month to meet its 2.071 trillion objective this fiscal year. The Kenya Stock Exchange, however, showed resiliency and capacity to carry on even under trying conditions. This demonstrates the effectiveness of the exchange system and practices, as well as the participants' and regulatory dedications to upholding a dependable and stable financial system in Kenya. This brings the question of whether the Azimio protest in the long run will achieve its intended objective or instead crumble the already broken economy.
And all right, away from that, we now look at the banking meltdown. Following the current financial markets crisis that has seen the collapse of the Silicon Valley and Signature Bank, plus the Credit Suisse Bank from Switzerland, one of the biggest banks that loans African banks, collapsing over the weekend. This has forced the Swiss government to break a deal that saw rival UBS to buy the bank for $3.2 billion. In this report, we analyze Uganda's position amidst the global shock in the financial market space. Rana Nahawe has more.
Merely hours after the collapsed Silicon Valley Bank was put up for auction, U.S. President Joe Biden took the mic to calm the frayed nerves both in the U.S. and across the world. He assured all that American banking system was safe.
Americans can have confidence that the banking system is safe. Your deposits will be there when you need them.
Starting with the Silicon Valley Bank, flowing into the First Republic Bank, Silvergate, Signature, and then rolling into Credit Suisse. I think what we are witnessing is, one, a crisis of confidence that's really underlying. Looking at the trigger specifically, Silicon Valley Bank, I think what we saw was what you term as poor interest rate management, interest rate risk management. So Silicon Valley Bank had a niche market. They were picking or grew their business, focusing on startups within the Silicon Valley, that's the name.
A critical interest rate decision on the U.S. central bank weighs on banks all over the world, including Uganda, with the traders wondering if the federal bank's continuous rate hikes will ever come to a halt. In this interview, we learn how Uganda is holding up in regards to reserves and how the Bank of Uganda is managing the situation.
Does Uganda have enough reserves? interesting question. I think it depends on who you ask. Reserves have dropped, yeah. So that means that we're not where we want, but it's not unique to Uganda. As I've said, as a result of the Fed actions, we've seen that reverse flows, which have impacted our results. So yes, the results are lower. Can we still manage? Yes, I think we're still importing. I already told you that we have an open capital account. You can buy whatever sum of dollars that you need if you need to, or sell. Yeah, so we're still open for business. I think the approach in terms of how the central bank has chosen to manage this, in my opinion, is a standout across the region. You're seeing challenges in TZ, in Kenya, in Ghana, in Nigeria, but we are standing out as like a shining light here.
Scandal and mistrust ended the Credit Suisse 166-year run, where we saw many banks run and withdraw their money. So what have we seen, considering that most African countries borrowed from the Credit Suisse? Kenyans have been scavenging for dollars despite the shortage attributed to the increased shipments of the raw materials and equipment in the wake of recovering the economy.
Their deposits. And that again starts spiraling into a liquidity challenge. Then that started spiraling across other weak banks. So Credit Suisse had already been struggling going into this year. If you recall, towards the end of last year, their key investor, the Saudi National Bank, did indicate that they're not going to put in any more money into the bank. So for it was limping getting into this year. So when investors start pulling or selling off stock of what they perceive as weak banks, Credit Suisse already on a sick bed was pulled in already.
Dollar is a global currency for trading purposes. You're going to demand more for the US dollar. All right. So the dollar is always going to be demanded. So that is going to determine how strong the Kenyan shilling is going to be.
What does that mean for us on the continent or in Uganda? During that period, at the peak, early March, you saw a lot of turmoil. The dollar, being a safe haven currency, started strengthening against other currencies. And we've also seen that here. Over the last month, I think the shilling has lost close to about 40 shillings. We're now trading at about 3,750.
In numerical terms, a stronger dollar makes it more difficult to service a debt for those who have borrowed in dollars but whose receipts are in other currency. This is a particular problem for governments and companies in emerging economies because most of their borrowing is in dollars, and Uganda is not left out.
Us here now, we are probably seeing it from a global effect. As I mentioned, dollar strengthening, that flows in through a weaker shilling. So you will feel it, I'll feel it, the corporate will feel it, because you're consuming imported products. So that will cut across on a macro level. It's not just a given specific sector.
The international financial inclusion and its impact on Uganda could be a big one. Any financial turmoil complicates central banks' focus on inflation. Rona Nahabwe, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now away from that, let's talk matters digital transformation imperative. As the digital landscape is rapidly evolving, businesses that fail to adapt risk behind being left. Now, therefore, local businesses in Uganda need to acquire digital transformation skills to enhance productivity and competitiveness on the world market. Bronia Katusime has more.
SMEs have always struggled to thrive and expand in the market, and the current pace of the economy is making things much more difficult for them. Most SMEs have had a difficult few years as a result of the pandemic. While some industries like e-commerce are experiencing growth, most SMEs are struggling because profits have been cut. They are losing clients and they have outstanding bills. In response to this, commercial banks like Stanbic have involved themselves in Uganda's fintech to provide industry-led skilling to local businesses in Uganda to help SMEs equip themselves with the fast-paced economy.
For us to continue to grow our footprint as a business, bricks and mortar, manual is not going to work for us going forward. We need to reduce the cost to serve our customers. We need to improve customer experience while actually lowering the cost to serve them and the cost to our customers. And digital plays that role in lowering the cost to serve.
Additionally, in the age of technical growth and digitization, fintech provides a wide range of benefits for SMEs through digitizing their business operations through courses like web development, mobile app development, and data science. These equip local businesses with the necessary digital transformation skills to compete effectively today. Moreover, fintech in the commercial industry provides businesses with greater analytics-based service customization, enabling them to unlock their company potentials beyond the local environment.
And so we primarily focus on skill, but we also pay attention to what the industry is looking for. Vision 2040 and NDP3 in what we currently all are looking at has a desire to have 700,000 tech jobs created in this ecosystem. 700,000. We all know that within our market, we probably are not yet close to even 15,000 developers, software engineers.
Furthermore, Uganda, as a growing economy targeting to be the middle income status, can achieve this by acquiring digital skills to improve productivity, reach new markets, and enhance competitiveness of businesses to a faster growing economy.
Uganda is young. Uganda is growing. Growing in terms of numbers, but also growing in terms of the economy. Uganda holds an ambition of becoming a middle-income economy, and we know that that will come true. And you cannot talk of a middle-income economy without thinking about the role that technology will play in growing the aspirations of Ugandans in Uganda.
Fintech, the amalgamation of finance and technology, accelerates financial services and automates its delivery by using software to enhance the overall efficiency of the finance functions of a business. This makes it critical in the growth of SMEs, that is the engine of the growth of the economic development, innovation, wealth creation of Uganda. Over 2.5 million people are employed in this sector, and it accounts for approximately 90% of the entire private sector, generating over 80% of manufactured output that contributes 20% of the gross domestic product. Brunia Katsime, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Away from that, President Museveni has sensitized Ugandans on value addition. The president has paraded investment opportunities for 800 Indian investors from across the world. At the Lohana International Business Forum in Munyonyo, President Museveni spoke against the exportation of raw materials, but rather advocated for adding value domestically. Padison Mumbere has details.
According to President Museveni, Uganda is rich in natural resources, and he highlighted 4 sectors like the pathogenic and manufacturing sectors, among others, that he encouraged the Indian investors to tap into. This indicates that Uganda has a significant amount of untapped foreign investment potential.
Electronics, that's another whole area that needs investment. Then you have the pathogenic, what we call the pathogenic economy. The human diseases are a problem, but they are also an opportunity. Again, there we are very busy with our own research. We are developing our vaccines, and we are developing our medicines from these herbs. Like when we had corona, our scientists discovered one substance called Covidex.
While at the Lohana International Business Forum in Munyonyo, Museveni reiterated the government commitment to promote value addition for Ugandan products rather than exporting raw materials. Lohana investors were assured of improved infrastructures like electricity.
Because this economy of Uganda can grow very fast to have a $1 trillion economy if you add value to all our raw materials. Because now we have got a large spectrum and quantity. We have got a wide spectrum and great quantities of raw materials.
Dozens of Luhana investors and first-time visitors to Uganda signed commitments to invest here. The chair of the Presidential Advisory Committee on Exports and Industrial Development, Audrey Rebogo, presented them before the president.
Uganda has many natural resources, a young, increasingly educated workforce, a steadily rising middle income, and more stable in terms of governance, including macroeconomic policies, all of which makes an ideal destination for long-term investment. You can see some of us families came here 120 years and we are still here.
And gentlemen, Mr. Satish, Mr. Vijay Karya, Mr. Subhash Takrar, Mr. Vinay Dar.
The first one I'm calling is a company that wants to make gelatin or collagen from bones, crushing bones for export to India. The company is called India Gelatin and Chemicals. So come forward, Mr. Vireni Mirani. Just come forward.
Foreign direct investment decreased by 18.6% from $1.42 billion in financial year 2018-2019 to $1.2 billion in financial year 2019-2020. However, the International Monetary Fund projects a return to a pre-pandemic level of 4.9% growth of calendar year 2021. Uganda therefore maintains a liberal trade and a foreign exchange regime. Bedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
And now Business Today does take a break, but we return with more. Stick around. Smart 24, driving business.
The taste of Uganda in a new international park.
He must be rich, tall, handsome, from a respectable family. He must have a maid because at our home we do not work.
Conductor Masao.
Owa, obadde olobye ku ssimu.
Yamunange anti yo TV enkolera.
Nyumirwa omulembe omupya ogujjudde ebisanyusa omuli emikutu gya TV egisukka mu 8 n'egya radio nga kw'otadde ne zifirimu ng'osinziirira wonna w'oli. Genda mu App Store oteeke app ya TV channels ku ssimu yo olwo onyumirwe ennaku 3 ng'olabira bwereere ewatali kukozesa data. Yo TV channels.
Smart 24, driving business. We'll be back from the break. You're still watching Business Today. Now, Kampala City Council Authority has approved 423.8 billion shillings. The chairperson Budget Committee for Kampala City Council Authority has recommended an additional money of 83,600,000 shillings from the Chanja Agricultural Resource Center in Kawempe Division. The project had already been awarded 200 million shillings to showcase and demonstrate innovations in urban farming. The project does cover 30 acres of land with an intention of supporting urban farming and food security. Samuel Kirimonda has details.
A budget of 423.8 billion shillings was approved by the Kampala City Council Authority for the fiscal year 2023-2024. Of that amount, 83.6 billion shillings were suggested for the Chanja Agriculture Research Center in the Kawempe Division to support the Parish Development Model Program, which aims to increase household incomes by 39%. Over 31 acres of land, the Chanja Agriculture Research Center houses more than 5 projects, including a chicken farm, a pig farm, a vegetable garden with tomatoes and green peppers, and more. Furthermore, Mosh Sendi suggested that the budget for the Directorate of Gender, Community Services and Production be approved with modification and sent to the Council for additional review.
Suggested a further 83,600,000 shillings be reallocated from the Chanja project to support the youth, women, persons with disabilities and the older persons councils to set up agriculture enterprises in production and value chain to improve their livelihoods. That is 20.9 million per group every single year. I believe that makes sense because putting money into a farm where we don't see any outputs, we rather give it to those people that need it and get engaged in business.
Furthermore, Ms. Doreen Nyanjura, Deputy Lord Mayor for Kampala City, cautioned the committee that much as the Agriculture Centre is much needed, transparency has to be practiced by the committee.
And now you paid under KCCA, there's a program that is supposed to accommodate agriculture. So that is where 350 million was entirely allocated. It has only two vehicles. And these 2 vehicles consume fuel of 50 million. And then for maintenance, they cost 40 million. And then there was also an item of staff training. And our question in that committee was, which staff is being trained at Chanja? We thought the people who work there are already trained. So you find that the money is under program-based budgeting, and it's given to a program which is not that important.
The Chanja Agriculture Research Center produces seedlings for crops such as tomatoes, sukuma wiki and sweet pepper, which they give free of charge to those registered for NED's program, while other members of the public buy the seedling cheaply. Samuel Jirumunda, Masi Katsimi for Smart 24 TV Business Today.
And now in our exclusive tonight, Bronia Katusime meets with Joel Muhumuza, who is the Chief Executive Officer, FlyHub. And they are discussing about the local business relations to digital transformation. Let's have it.
A good evening, our dear viewers. As we know that digital landscape is rapidly evolving in this world, the topic of discussion today is about local businesses involving themselves with the digital transformation to help them enhance productivity and competitiveness when it comes to business operations. Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased. Today I'm with Mr. Joel Muhumuza, the CEO of FlyHub, who will help elaborate more. So Mr. Muhumuza, if you were to give it like a percentage, on what percentage do you think our local businesses in Uganda are at when it comes to digital transformation?
Well, thank you for having me. I think I'll answer it in 2 ways. In terms of percentage of total businesses that are digital, probably less than 5%. It's a very low number, but that stands to reason because enablers for digital are also quite difficult. Access to internet, access to electricity, even priorities in how you're going to reach customers. Most people are using cash. Most people are used to coming to your business as a physical place. So I would say less than 5% are digital. But I would say about 80% of businesses interact with digital tools. They use mobile money occasionally to pay for their utility bills or to receive payments. Many will even use WhatsApp to advertise their businesses. They may use Facebook. I know it's not official officially on, but some people use Facebook. So I think there's some initial adoption of digital tools. It's just very low. And I think that that's part of why we're interested in seeing how businesses can start to use productive tools. Right now they use social tools or some, mobile money here and there, but they're not taking the full benefit of using digital tools. Yeah.
How best would you think you would advise that the people in local businesses to embrace digital transformation in their skills?
Yeah, so maybe I'll say three things there. One is a bit self-serving. It's what we're doing as Standard Bank. So the group created the incubator. So the business incubator is one way in which, for free, we take different businesses through the journey of getting their books ready, understanding how to use digital tools, understanding how it helps them even get financing. So I think to begin with, looking out for these kinds of endeavors, there are a lot of free courses that are out there. The issue is, I think, how to find them. And so we're trying to publicize in things like this to say they're available with us, but with a few other partners. I think the second way is this country has a lot of young people, and a lot of them are very savvy at navigating the internet. So I would say ask your son, ask someone who's in the neighborhood about how can I use Excel? How can I use Google Drive, for instance? There are free tools that can be used to enhance what you're already doing. And once you get a taste of it, then you can appreciate things at a higher level. Now, I would say the third means is, by engaging organizations such as ourselves. So FlyHub, for instance, we were created as a technology software developer. So we build products for companies, including internal to the group. And one of the things that we found is the initial step is just helping someone understand how their business actually runs and what changes they need to do. The biggest thing I'll say about digital is it's mostly a change of mindset. So once you are open to using new tools, it's very easy. That's the biggest part, I think about 90%. The tools come along afterwards. But I think we intimidate people. I think it's a problem even on our side. We intimidate people by making them look super high-tech and very far away and not relatable. I think by breaking down that barrier and saying, if I can use WhatsApp, I can use any digital tool. Yeah.
Wow, from what you've said mostly about the mindset of people, how would you maybe mention a few of the benefits of businesses using digital in their operations? What could be some of those importances, the benefits when it comes to having digital in one's business?
All right, I think let me start with what most people realize. Let's say I have a business selling honey and I'm located somewhere in Mbuya. That means only the people who can reach Mbuya physically will be able to purchase my goods. Going digital has different facets. There will be the back end, so that's your internal operations, and then the front end. So a lot of times people will do the front end, so they'll get an email address, they may get a website, and what they find is they get overwhelming response. So when you go online, it means people in Kenya, people in other parts of Uganda will see what you're offering and then make a request for you to provide the service. But if on the back end I'm not able to do logistics, I'm not able to plan, not able to respond, all I'll see is so many people who want my service and I'm not able to meet them. So I would say the first bit is to look internally and say, what is the thing that's going to add money to my business? One is, for instance, the group has something called FlexiPay. So FlexiPay was created for someone as a business owner to be able to get payments either from a bank, if someone's paying with their card, if someone's paying with mobile money, if someone's paying with cash, if someone is sending from Western Union, all of that can come straight into your coffers. Now, once we see that record, as the bank, we now know you. The bank only knows a business by its business books, by your transaction records. And unfortunately, so many businesses, the information is held up here or is held in a book somewhere. And the time it takes to get that information from the book to a person who wants to provide you credit or insurance, it's cumbersome. So if you use these tools and you're using them in an everyday basis, it makes the cost of financing to you easier. It makes our ability to even help you and customize tools for you so much better. So it helps us on the supply side understand that, people in construction no longer need the kinds of loans we're giving them. Maybe they need other loans to be able to get inventory. The other bit I would say is don't walk the journey alone. A lot of the African bonuses that we work within associations. We do circles, we do group savings. In that group, it's very easy for you to then say, coming to the bank and say, come and teach us about how we can use the digital financial tools you have. We're struggling, we're trying to set up our business together. Each of us is struggling. Let's come together and put our needs and say, come and talk to our 300 or 500. I'll tell you for free, any provider of services is attracted to numbers. So if you pull together as numbers and demand for us to tell you something, we will. One last thing there I think I'll say in terms of the mindset. I wouldn't say the mindset it's not a malicious one. It's not one of laziness. You're just used to doing things a certain way. And that change is what is very uncomfortable. And part of why this initiative towards doing masterclasses, towards building a digital toolbox, is we're saying even people like myself, people who come in suits every day, we think we know, but we also just move by force of inertia, by force of nature. So we're looking at not just the local businesses in terms of the vast majority of entrepreneurs, we're also looking at the corporate businesses that are supposed to support them. We're also looking at government who's supposed to be providing an enabling environment, because we can't move with just the businesses. Businesses interact with government, businesses interact with larger providers who will put out who will ask them to vend for them services or will procure services from them. So we're trying to hit it from all those avenues. So I don't want people to think it's just the small local businesses. It's generally as a country, there's a lag towards taking on digital technologies, but that lag can be easily overcome by, having the bravery to say, I don't know, just help me. Yeah.
As we were starting this whole discussion, you talked about our business is having like 5% in the digital technologies. What would you think are some of the challenges or hurdles that lead to this?
Yeah, so I think in part it's also not knowing the right tools that you need. Too often you can buy a large technology solution and you're using a hammer to hit a mouse. You don't need something that large. Earlier in the press conference, our partner Michael from Refactory gave the example of government rightfully saying that different districts needed to have websites. Why? If we're looking to promote Uganda, to build Uganda, the outside world needs to see what we're doing. But the challenge was it's easy to set up the website, but to keep it running, to provide the content, to know how to respond, that's where the gap was. I think a challenge is also there are very few skilled developers, very few skilled people who work in tech. So a lot of what we're using is received from the outside world. It's received from either the US, or it's received from Europe, or it's received from Asia. So those technologies have been built to meet problems that they have. Some are universal, but for instance here, how easy is it for someone who's never learned how to read or write in English to be able to engage with the digital service? Perhaps the way I should be able to speak in my local dialect and for the information to be received is something that needs to be done. So there's a challenge on our side to be able to adapt to where people are, instead of hoping everyone comes to a place where the average American citizen is, where they can start to engage with tools. The other things around, the enabling infrastructure. 5G internet is not widely spread, so to depend on your business being completely online or having to connect, it can be a risk. So a lot of businesses are hybrid. You have your digital side, but you also have your books that you're keeping. I know for myself, for instance, I can never move without cash. I will use my phone to make payments, I'll use the card, but if it's not working, I need to have a backup. I think the last one might just be around the people who make business decisions. This country is very young, but both in the business community and in the government, decisions are made by people who are much older than people who are actually facing the everyday grind. And as long as that gap remains, it's almost seen as, it's just a nice to have instead of an investment in the future. So I think part of it is on us, using our brand and being able to, speak to industry associations to say, yeah, we're talking about digital skilling for people in school, for people who are, looking for jobs. But ask ourselves, are we making the right investments? Are we creating the right jobs? Are we, setting aside the right kinds of projects? Because it's easy for us to talk and say someone else has to learn. What we're saying is we also need to learn and take ourselves on the journey as well. Yeah.
While talking about these hurdles, you talked about how some of them can be addressed. Kindly elaborate more on how we can work on these challenges.
So I think for us, practically one of the things that we've thought about is actually starting by having these master classes. So they'll be coming out. They'll be looking at different sectors, people in oil and gas because it's really front and center in the Buy Uganda, Build Uganda. We're looking at the education sector. We're looking at textile trade. We're looking at people who are dealing in financial services as well, people in ceramics, people in real estate. When we put out our toolkit at the end of the day, it's meant to be something that's Ugandan made, that you as a business can download, go through, ask yourself questions and get a diagnosis, just like when you've gone to the doctor. So after you've gotten the diagnosis, we'll recommend a few tools that you should start with. Some of them are free, so you can begin to engage. There are also resources where you can ask questions from larger enterprises like Google or Microsoft. But then for your specific use case, that's why we exist as FlyHub and Refractory as our partner. More practically, up until we save the world with this toolkit, I think the ways that people can start to solve these issues are starting with your phone. Your phone does quite a bit. I tell my mother she uses it for phone calls and WhatsApp. She doesn't know she can take notes with it. She doesn't know that she can record things. It's a powerful device, but we don't seem to engage as much with it. So I think the greatest way is just to find the most technically advanced person and just say, show me how this thing works, someone you trust. I think the community approach really makes sense. But you have to ask the question in terms of how does this apply to my business, and then try just a little bit. I have a young nephew who he learns by doing, and I think as adults we like to learn by looking. So I think if we change it to let's start learning by doing, just with the few things we have, signing up for WhatsApp Business, just going through WhatsApp Business, it will show you how you should list your products, how you shall get communication back. Signing up for the Google business, I forget what it's called. There's it's something under Google Business that lists your business, so it can be searched for when people are Googling. Now there's a lot of information there that you can go through. So I think those are a few places you can start. But I also would like to repeat that we have the Stanbic Incubator. Every year they open up different free sessions where we train different businesses, particularly small and medium enterprises, on how they can use the right digital tools for them to succeed.
Yeah, recently we signed an MOU with China whereby they will be investing 560 billion Ugandan shillings in the improvement of internet in Uganda. Would you say that our government is working so hard to make sure that the business community is involved when it comes to digital transformation?
Yes, they are, but I think being part of an association myself, we're saying more can be done. Why? A lot of the things government wants to do, we think us as the business sector should be driving it. So for instance, if they say they're going to set up internet service points along a certain business corridor, we would want to say, is that the corridor that makes the most money? When the money is retrieved from there, where is it going to go? What kind of preparation should we have to do? One of the challenges we've seen, for instance, is how fiber optic cables, different companies lay them on the same path. Then they may interfere with national water, or they may interfere with something else. So I think the thing I would say is there's need for more coordination. And I think we as the citizenry should understand that this is public service to us. So one of the ways we have started it is through the Bankers Association, through the FinTech Association, to use that aggregated body to talk to our regulators like NITA, to talk to Bank of Uganda, to talk to UCC, to say, hey, we need you to do these specific actions. So I would say if you are in a specific industry, look to form an association, because when it's just you as an individual, it's not going to have much impact. But I think the investment, the money is there, the will is there. I think we just need to add our voices to direct it to the right things.
That is all we had for you today in the discussion. If you're out there watching us, make sure you involve your business when it comes to digital transformation. Thank you.
All right, many thanks for that. Now that brings us to the end of business today. But first, let's have a recap. of our top stories.
In business today, President Museveni parades investment opportunities at the first Lohana Business Forum. Members of Parliament worry over heavy deployment at the Uganda-Kenyan border hindering trade. SMEs tap into e-commerce in order to boost its trade performance.
All right, and many thanks for being part of business today, wherever you've been catching us from. I'm Jerome Paul Sonko with Winnie Winzenakauchi on sign language. From the entire newsroom, the production and the editorial team, we want to wish you a blessed night and a good evening till tomorrow. Smart 24 TV driving your business from Plot 42, Nile Avenue. Good evening.